welcome to the FHP English Breakfast Midweek Podcast. There's a mouthful for you. My name is Kris. I am your host, as I always am and probably always will be. And I'm joined by my two regular breakfast pundits or accomplices. I've got Danny and I've got Ross. Good evening to you both.
Very in-depth, Danny. I like it.
We're in a hurry.
That was good. I like it. This is the first of two podcasts that you will probably see pop into your feed in the next coming minutes or days.
We're in a hurry.
Well, technically, yes. We're going to do a midweek breakfast pod every time there are midweek English fixtures. And
how much it kills me not to shout breakfast.
Breakfast. I know.
It's really hard.
Sure, the listeners do it as well, but
hopefully.
But yeah, we've got plenty to cover, so we'll dive straight in. Once this pod is complete, we'll then be inviting the other pundits across, and they'll be talking transfers. There'll be two separate pods. Plenty to get listening to. Right, let's talk about the midweek Premier League fixtures then, shall we, boys and girls? Ross, I'm going to start with you. And I'm going to start this week with Manchester United, which is a bit of an odd one to start.
I've got a question before you start. You know, I'm never allowed to talk about the Arsenal games because I'm biased. Mm-hmm. And Ross can't talk about the Southampton games because he's biased.
We just skip
over tonight.
We'll cover the FHP derby in a short while, but we're starting with Man United, so back in your box. Ross, Man United, 1-3-0. They scored 2 goals in the first half, which was, I think people were rubbing their eyes when they saw that. Two particularly good goals, in fairness, footballing-wise, and a 3-0 victory. My question to you is this a sign that Man United's sort of hinges have come loose and the oil has been put on the wheels and they're ready to rock and roll? Or do you think it's a Stoke side that essentially have missed out on a trip to Wembley and might have been feeling a bit sorry for themselves?
Yeah, it's that, because I watched them the week beforehand and they were awful. It doesn't change that quickly. 3-0 over Stoke is a big result, especially with the way Stoke have been playing so far this season. But they haven't won in 5 now. You know, Stoke are I think they were just on a bad run. United were after a reaction from that awful performance against Southampton. So, no, I think this is probably a one-off. I mean, United have had a couple of these results during the season where they put 3 past someone and then next week they have 3 get put past them. So, no, I think it's just another one of those one-offs for United.
I'm inclined to agree. Danny, were you impressed with the fact they managed to put 3 past them? I mean, that puts them into a position where they're now 5 points off the top 4. Do you see them kicking on for this, or are you with Ross? Do you think it's a bit of a false dawn?
No, I think they've decided Rooney is the man up front. Like I said in the last one, that he's got the skills to score the goals. Mata, best number 10 that they've got at the club. Martial playing out wide, the ability to score a goal, and young Jesse Lingard coming in. And Rooney's now got 5 and 5 in the Premier League. I think the squad is finally settled. There was a bit of debate last night about who was going to play in the middle. They wanted Schneider to be playing there, and people were saying that Fellaini's no good because he wanted out. Apparently he was available on loan but didn't go. Carrick has got the tackling ability but hasn't got the pace. And they were wondering why Schneider and paid so much money for him, and he was so good and did so much wonderful stuff for Southampton, why he wasn't playing. And he hasn't really played there a full part this season. But yeah, I think a lot of it is they're playing with their hair down. The season, if they don't start playing with a little bit more free will, then the season's over. But there again, when Stoke have got Crouch up front, you're not really going to do. I think he was 35 yesterday.
Was he really that old? That's got back
on Hawksby and Jacobs. They were doing the birthday. Yeah, 35 yesterday.
Wow, that has gone by quick, isn't it? It really has.
One of my favourite lines in football. This is to Peter Krause. What would you be if you wouldn't have been a footballer? He said a virgin.
That's very good. Very good. So that's Man United then. So we're all a little bit not convinced. I do just want to also address a rumour that I saw floating around. Ryan Giggs was not present in this game. He was apparently ill, in quote marks. There was a lot of rumours around him going to Celtic. Did either of you buy that at all?
To do what?
To manage, potentially.
Well, the bloke they got up there isn't doing very good, and tonight they just lost 2-0 to their closest rivals, Aberdeen, and they got knocked out of the semi-final of the Scottish Cup by Ross County.
Ronnie Dyler, isn't it, who's in charge of that?
Yeah. No, neither do I.
Of many moons.
Watch this space. It was an interesting rumour. It's one of the more fun rumours I've seen in recent weeks. But
I think it makes more sense than the Swansea rumour a couple of months back.
Yes, yeah. I think somebody just put together that he was Welsh and went, well, that's obviously the club he wants to manage.
Yeah.
Roy Keane didn't do much there, did he?
Yeah. No, he didn't.
He got himself sent off a couple of times, but
yeah, that's very true. Yeah, picked up quite a lot of money as well. Still, we digress. Let's move on to another game then. The next one I'm going to pick out now. this one I kind of caught glimpses of in amongst other bits and bobs I was doing. West Ham 2, Aston Villa 0. Danny, Remy Gard's, he's in a position now where he must be thinking, what on earth have I taken on? Now,
I think we're all thinking that.
Yeah, absolutely. His choice, I should say. But Jordan Ayew was sent off, and I saw a lot of people say that this cost them the game. It was 17 minutes in. It was a foolish sending off. He's got to know better than that. But to me, Villa, they never looked like they were going to get anything from the game anyway. West Ham winning 2-0 in the end. Antonio and a late goal from Kouyaté. I think it's 10 unbeaten for West Ham, so good for them. But I want to focus on Villa. Are they just giving up? Have they resigned themselves to Championship football now?
They got to have, and Remy Gard has been saying in the papers that he's hinted at the fact that he's annoyed because there was no money. Not a single shiny penny was given to him to rebuild that squad. And when you have to resort to playing Gabby up front, then you know you're in trouble. He's messed around with the goalkeepers. He's got that young Mark Bunning goal. He's had the Brad Guzan. Is that the one? Yeah, Brad Guzan's been dropped to the bench. Sinclair, who I think is probably their best player by a mile. He's not playing regularly. Jordan Ayew, who's the son of Abide Pele, isn't he?
I believe he is. Certainly related.
Yes, his son, and the other one at Swansea is his brother.
Andre,
I know you knew that because you kept reminding me. But they've got some decent players there, like Sissoko's a decent player. Richards and Lescott, if they can get it working together, they're good. So they've got a core of decent players, but just so many of them, the crowd are on their back because Aston Villa are a huge club. But West Ham only 6 points away from the Champions League place, and we're into February already. And if it wasn't for the fact that Paye has been out for best part of 2 months, if he'd have been there all season, then I reckon they'd be battling Spurs and Arsenal for fourth.
Yeah, it's West Ham. They've definitely been impressive. West Ham. Ross, you've said about Villa that we said in the last 2 breakfast shows that they really need to be planning for Championship football, and you said about they should have maybe done some business ahead of the summer to get Championship players in. They did nothing. They obviously failed with a bid for Matteo Debuchy and have got no one in. So, in your opinion, I mean, do you think this is it for them? Are they toast?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. I mean, you look at the team they played with Bunning goal, and they had Clark, Grealish, Mason, a guy called Lydon I've never heard of before on the bench. Looks like he's trying to find some strength and depth through the youth academy and just hasn't found it. They really needed to do something just in case. Well, I say just in case, it seems destined now that they're going down. But I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago now, I was going through a list of players that I thought they should be into. And 2 of them moved in that window, Aidan McGeady and Jordan Rhodes, and they just let both of them go by. So I think they've kind of shot themselves in the foot by not doing anything this window. But at the same time, I don't know the finances at Villa. It could be that spending's really tight, or it could just be that the chairman is still looking to sell and doesn't want to put any more money in.
Which is why they are where they are now.
Absolutely. Do either of you think Remy Gard will be there next season?
No. Not at this rate, no.
No, definitely not. He's shown that he's a decent manager of what he did with Lyon. He was only given the job because they'd kind of were going through a whole rebuilding process, was it a new stadium as well?
Yeah, they got a new stadium and a whole raft of new players, and the whole thing at Lyon has been tipped upside down. So
he's a nice bloke. I think maybe he could do with having a stint in the Premier League as an assistant manager or a coach just to get a little bit more familiarity. But I can see him staying around and getting a job somewhere else because he does play a decent brand of football, and he's a nice bloke.
Yeah, I was about to say, he does kind of strike me as the kind of guy that won't walk away from this midway through the season, like the papers were saying when the window's shut. He seems like a nice, honest guy that will see out the rest of his season at least and then make a decision.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. We will obviously keep an eye on it, but I think we're all in agreement that they are doomed, as Dad's Army's chap would say. I forget his name. You hate it?
One more advert for it on a swing for someone.
Oh dear, I'm quite interested. I'm quite keen to go and see it. But
Don't tell him your name, Pike.
Stupid boy. Anyhow, speaking of stupid boys, let's touch on Norwich and Tottenham Hotspur. So Tottenham came into this game sort of, were they in a title fight? Were they not? Some people were convinced, some people weren't. I think it's fair to say that they're in the mix now. What I would question, though, and again, I want to sort of focus on this from a Norwich perspective, they, to me, look like they are dropping like a stone. New signings in the side. I think Tim Closer made his debut, but they just give away goals, and a goal behind after 2 minutes. Ross, what do you make of Norwich? Do you see them as almost as likely for the drop as Villa at the moment? Because I just can't see where the next point's coming from.
Well, the funny thing was, before this pod started, I was looking down at the bottom half of the table, and I was looking at Swansea because I was looking at their result yesterday against West Brom and thinking, are there three worse teams in the Premier League than them? Are they really at risk of going down? And if I was to pick a bottom three now, I'd put Norwich in it with Sunderland and Villa, personally. They seem to be doing what a couple of other teams have been doing this season. I mean, Southampton had it, Watford had it, Crystal Palace have currently got it, so have Stoke, where they just go on an awful run and suddenly they've lost 5 in a row. And yeah, it's tough because they're a nice team to watch, but I think they're doing what Blackpool did a few seasons ago and playing far too open, trying to take their chance in the Premier League, and they're just getting caught out by it.
Yeah, I think exactly the same. Danny, what do you make of Norwich? I mean, do you think they're...
It's all down to them getting rid of Stephen Fry, isn't it? Stephen Fry, who would be my personal choice of the next god or king or queen, whichever one he wants. He can have all of them because I love him. The first person I ever followed on Twitter. That was him. They're a little bit rubbish, aren't they? It's amazing that Stoke and Norwich are both having a really bad run, but yet both of them stopped Arsenal winning games recently.
So true.
You think, oh, for God's sake! But did you know that Harry Kane scored 2, hit the post twice, and Ming, he hit the post as well. I mean, that could have been 5, 6, 7 goals in that game, and Spurs had 18 shots on goal, and they just dominated the game. I mean, away from home as well, they dominated with every single part of the game. And I like Norwich. I think if I don't live too far, I could probably be there in an hour and a half, because the A4 into Norwich is rubbish. But yeah, they're a team going nowhere, aren't they? I mean, Bassong's been brilliant all season, and most of the season, scored a few goals. They thought Naismith would be the one to come in because he's scored that hat-trick against, was it Man United earlier this season for Everton?
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
I don't think there's enough depth of the squad to get through there, and I just feel for Norwich. I don't want them to be stuck with all these players if they do get relegated. But I don't think Sunderland are going to go down. I think Swansea could be for the drop. Bournemouth are pulling away. West Brom are... oh dear, that's my drink coming back. Yeah, West Brom aren't looking too good either, and Palace are struggling. So I reckon anywhere from probably Everton and above. But they're against Stoke. They're dropping as well, aren't they?
West Brom I'm never convinced by either, so... There's quite a lot of teams down there. Palace, 5 straight defeats. I mean, they're dropping like a stone.
Even though they've got 3 ex-Arsenal strikers, they still scored a single goal. I mean, you're knackered when you bring on Shamak and Adebayor.
Yeah, God.
This is the thing about the league, is that 2 weeks ago I would have said Southampton were in the relegation mix, and then 1 win and it's changed. I mean, it's the strange thing about this year's division is that it feels like the Championship to me, where all of a sudden one result turns your season and suddenly you're on an awful run. And Norwich are on it, Swansea were on it at one point. Palace now, like Danny's just saying, they're still not safe yet. I mean, Chelsea haven't been safe all season. Yeah, it's strange how clustered the middle of the table is, and all of a sudden one result in this division, and suddenly you're flying. So I think Norwich are in trouble, but just as easily any team above them could start falling.
One thing I always look at is the goal difference. If a team's got decent goal difference, that means they can score goals and win games. Everybody from 12 down is all minus. Everton +9, Stoke -4, Watford +1, Liverpool -4, and then Southampton +8. I think you're in no fear of going down. You've got to foul your goalkeeper. Don't get me started on that. What a player. We said this last breakfast, didn't we?
Yeah,
we talked about how good he was.
We jinxed it, didn't we? Well, we'll stay down the bottom end, said the Bishop to the actor, for a minute and just look at some of the other teams that are in around, or indeed our actress.
Again, it's modern day. It could be Bishop to the actor.
Could be either or. Before we mortally offend somebody, let's move on. Let's have a look. Sunderland then. They lost to Manchester City in sort of a top of the table versus bottom of the table clash. The one thing they've got is Defoe, and that should give you goals. And I thought Wabi Kazra on his debut was excellent. What do you guys make of? We'll kind of incorporate Sunderland and Newcastle together. Newcastle lost 3-0 tonight away at Everton in a game that I doubt whether they would have looked at. Well, I don't know. Maybe they would have looked at an opportunity to get some points. Danny, I'll give you Newcastle, and then I'll come to us for Sunderland. What do you make of Newcastle? They've strengthened heavily, and then they've gone to Everton, who ship goals all the time, and have failed to score and lost 3-0. So, what do you make of them?
You say they've bought heavily. They've kind of speculated heavily on players that they can then flog on for double the money in 18 months' time, which is what Newcastle. That's their whole ethos about football. Plus, they've got a manager that no one. I mean, has anyone ever really gone? Oh, I've forgotten his name. Red Nose Umbrella.
Steve McLaren.
Steve McLaren, Red Nose Umbrella. I tell you how my mind worked. Don would love that. Yeah, does anyone ever go, I really, really like that Steve McLaren. He's absolutely wonderful. No one ever says that. He's a journeyman manager who's been slated everywhere he's gone. But then you look at, I know Ross is going to do Sunderland, but,
Allardyce?
I've forgotten his name. Sam Allardyce. I love Sam Allardyce. I preferred him with a moustache. But he was a hell of a player. He's a hell of a manager, and he's done brilliant at every club. And he's one of those managers I always want to see do really, really well. But in tonight's game, there was I was saying to you before we started recording, Ross Barkley scored a 88th minute pen and then a 92nd or 93rd minute penalty, and they had their new signing. Well, did you say he was from Forest, Ross? Their new bloke. The one
they sent it back. Yeah.
Yeah, they had him sent off. When I think he only come on as a substitute. Does it say the minutes here? No, it just says sub in. No, it's not going to tell me, is it? Yellow card. No, it doesn't tell me who he was substituted for.
I can tell you if you want. He came on at half time for Chancellor Mbemba.
Brilliant. So Ouch. There you go. That's one of his first games, isn't it? He's been sent off with 2 yellows. So,
and they also started Andros Townsend, John Joe Shelvey, Henri Saivet. They were the 3 that started, and Dumbier was on the bench but not used. So
because 2 of their best players all season have been Janmaat and Wijnaldum. Did I say that right?
Wijnaldum, but that was
so
a good
close.
effort. Good effort.
So close. They have got the parts there. I think it says here Perez played up front, but I think you're going to get Dumbier playing, and he has got the pace. Anybody who's watched him play for CSK Moscow before he went to Roma, then back to Moscow,
yep.
He has got pace, and that is something that is very valuable in the Premier League. He was kind of nullified when he was playing in Serie A because it's a much slower game and it's much more defensive. But I think he'll get some goals here. He'll definitely terrorise. He'll be the Theo Walcott in a black and white shirt.
He's the one I'd be starting, to be honest. I think he's because Saivet's more of a sort of a link man. I think, I'm not convinced by Mitrovic, and Perez is good but raw. I would be having Dumbier up front as soon as he's fit.
Probably still thawing out from his time in Moscow because it's -1,000 up there.
Yeah.
Newcastle, I think they've got the players to do it. The manager's kind of got the experience, but the sooner the better. They get rid of the owner and get rid of McLaren. And maybe I'd let the Newcastle fans own the club because you rarely come across a better group of fans than that, and a fantastic stadium and a nice area with canny lasses.
Indeed, yeah. and lovely taxis that certain ex-Arsenal strikers like to fondle.
Ooh,
anyway.
He's a king, he's a lord.
Indeed he is. Ross, what do you make of Sunderland then? Taxis aside, what do you sort of make of their situation? They've brought in some reinforcements, as I mentioned before. They have got Defoe, which you would think would guarantee goals if they can get the ball into, if they can create the chances. Do you think that they've got enough to stay up?
Not personally, no. I think they're right in the middle of it all. We just said about Newcastle, all the signings they made. I think personally, at least Newcastle invested heavily in the offense. Sunderland invested heavily in the defense. If you put Newcastle's offense with Sunderland's defense, you'd probably have a very good side. But offensively, Sunderland are really poor this season. I mean, defensively, they haven't been that much better, I have to admit. But they're still, for me, they're a still better defensive unit than Newcastle are. And I think that's the thing that's going to really keep them in trouble, because for all the love I have for Jermaine Defoe, if you're going to concede 5 or 4, that's still a lot of work that Defoe needs to pick up. And I just don't think he's got that in him. So, I do worry for them. I think as a defensive unit, they are good, but just something's not working at the moment. It might be that they've just brought in Kone and Kirchhoff back in the middle of it all, and they're changing it up. But I think with Allardyce, they've got a good as shot as any. I think personally, I think they're probably on their way down. But even if they do go down, I think Allardyce is the same kind of manager that will bring them straight back up and solidify them a bit more. Yeah,
he's the right person to have there. That's for certain. But be interested to see what happens with them at the weekend. We'll look at the fixtures before we leave you this evening, stroke this morning. Right, let's have a look at another game then. Danny, let's focus on the game this evening, which was Watford 0, Chelsea 0. Now, I don't particularly want to focus.
I've fallen asleep already. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say I don't want to focus on the game too much because it was pretty terrible, to be honest. Yeah.
Did Hazard continue his wonderful goal-scoring streak of 1?
Yeah, he didn't even start, which was a surprise, to be honest. But
yeah, he came on for, who does it say? I just said something. I never did. I don't like this. They don't tell you.
Do you want me to tell you again?
Go on then.
Yeah, he came on at 73 minutes for Matic.
Yeah, see Matic run. They only used 1 sub. When you got
strange.
Yeah, they dropped. Did they drop? Yeah, I thought they'd started. They dropped Cahill for Zuma. No, because I think Zuma's played quite a few, hasn't he? Has Cahill been injured?
He's just been out of favour, I think, because there's talk about him might be wanting to leave, or so with Terry going.
Had a couple of had a decent games, didn't he? Scored a goal recently, and the new England hero Loftus-Cheek. So he didn't get a game.
No.
England legend in the making, apparently.
less said about Chelsea's use policy, the better. But what do you make? I mean, obviously it's a 0-0 result. It leaves Chelsea in 13th. I mean, they are unbeaten in several weeks now, which is progress given what they started the season with. But who does this result suit more? Because Watford have had 3 straight defeats until they won at the weekend. This obviously is a draw at home, moves them up to 9th and 33 points. Was it A, the most bizarre choice for a game on BT Sport ever, and B, who does that point sort of favour more given the circumstances?
Probably Chelsea, because they're so close to the relegation zone. Even now, they're only Newcastle on 21, Chelsea are on 29. They're only 8 points ahead of them, and that would have been 7. They've got a goal difference of -2. They've only scored 32 goals all season, conceded 34. They've lost 9 games. It's like the old days of Division 2 football. It's Chelsea-Watford, where it'd be a big London derby with about 8,000 people there, and then Watford would usually win it. It just kind of reminded me of the old days. Chelsea have been on a great run recently with... They did the job against Arsenal, like they always do, being the bogey team. But Watford have got to be happy with that, because they were having quite a decent run. I mean, you just said they lost 3 games in a row, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're still 9th in the league, and I think they thought they'd be battling for relegation all season, but to be that far away, I mean, they're 12 points above relegation already, so that's virtually guaranteed them they're not going to go down. There's so many other teams like Crystal Palace and Stoke that are just falling around their heels, and now they're only a point behind Liverpool, whose goal difference is -4.
Yeah,
which is surprising for those as well. I think we could see Liverpool drop down the table as well, and then go and beat someone 9-0, and then lose 5-0.
Yeah, we will.
There.
We will touch on Liverpool in a minute, but another couple of sides one that's lower down and one that's mid-table. Ross, the Swansea game with West Brom, that late equaliser from Rondon for West Brom, which was the most bundled goal ever. It's a real sort of scrappy goal. That is. Do you get the impression that goal could be massively vital, particularly against Swansea, because they're now 26 points, which is just 5 points above the bottom 3. Do you just think that extra 2 points, it just might come back to bite them? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, especially if some of the teams are below them start to wake up, because I still think Norwich are going to be going down, but they're still a very good offensive team, and they could very easily go on a run, just like Bournemouth have been doing recently. So yeah, those dropping points, especially against a team like West Brom, who I think every team looks at and thinks, right, we can get something from this game. Swansea would have had that down as a game that they really needed to win, even if just to drag West Brom further down and get them back in the relegation mix. But yeah, that could be a big 2 points come the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree. The plus sides, I'd say, for Swansea, I think Alberto Poloski, who was signed from Udinese, he does. From Kiev, he does look pretty decent. So it might be.
I still think Swansea have got a good team, because this is essentially the same team that did so well last season. It's just strange it's fallen away as badly as it has.
It is a really strange one, isn't it? Really, really strange how they played such good football, and they were so expressive, and this season it just hasn't worked. But we'll keep an eye on them. We can't really hold this back any longer, Danny. We're going to have to address the giant elephant in the room, marked Southampton. We're also going to give you the floor first of all. From your point of view, it's the Hipsters derby. You've taken a point sort of from the Emirates. If I'd have offered you that pre-game, would you have happily taken it?
Yeah, of course. It's a massive point for us, especially considering how many really good chances Arsenal had during the course of that game. Yeah, that's a massive point. The main thing for us was to make sure we didn't lose and just keep the momentum that we've built since we turned things around a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, but at the same time, having Fraser Forster back in goal, I think it shows you everything. As soon as he's back in goal, 4 clean sheets, and some of the saves he was pulling off. I mean, he's the reason, or Stekelenburg more appropriately, it's the reason we went on that bad run in December. I think I sent a tweet out after the game that read something on the lines of, if we'd had Forster in goal during December, we wouldn't have lost nearly as many as we did then. He's just this sublime goalkeeper, and a lot better than Stekelenburg has ever been. And I think you all saw that on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and you called it. You did call it. I remember the conversation. And one thing he has to sort out, though, number 44, what's that about? That's got to change.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's just because he was injured and he got a bum rush with the number, but yeah, that's a strange keeper number to get.
You'll sort that out. Danny, from an Arsenal perspective then, I mean, we've obviously on a different medium, we went through it in depth last night, but I mean, where does this leave Arsenal? Obviously, was it 2 points from the last 7 games? I think I'm right in saying that. It's certainly only a couple of goals in the last few games, which is the big worry. But on the plus side, a lot of chances. Was it just poor finishing? I mean, would you be more worried if they weren't creating chances?
I'm worried now the transfer window is closed and we can't go and get anybody in. We've now got 3 points from the last 4 out of 12, which is 4 games. Not scored in 3 games in Premier League games in a row, which is the first time since 2009, which you think was, that's last week. It wasn't. That was 7 years ago. No one's scoring. I mean, the whole team are gelling back together because we're virtually on the verge of having a full strength team again. But like Ross was saying, how often do you see an away goalkeeper get an Opta rating of 9.9? It was the old Celtic combination of Van Dijk and Dijk.
Van Dijk.
There you go. D-I-J-K. Him and Forster working together. Was it Van Dijk that got a last-minute tackle in? And then there was 2 early corners from crosses from Bellerin did one, then Ramsey did one. Decent crosses, but then who's there to get them? Because Giroud wasn't there as usual for the first one. I think the second one he nodded down, Ozil took it and then shot it from point-blank range, and Forster just went one-handed, eyes closed, no problem. I'll take these all day long. I was expecting Mane to do something because I had the prediction of 1-0 Southampton, Mane first goal scorer, after I realised that Austin wasn't even on the bench. I think he had a little bit of a knock, Ross, did he?
Yeah, he's just got a knock in training.
Shame that, because I could have got 5 points there. You were very close to winning, but when you look at the stats, possession Arsenal 65% to 35, total shots 22 to 14, pass success rate 82-65, aerials 117-8, tackles, this is the important bit, Arsenal 23, Southampton 32, absolutely fantastic. Corners 13 to 3. And dispossessed 20 to 16. So many Southampton players there just played their asses off. They said, right, go there, defend, get the point. That's all we need. They're our bogey team along with Chelsea. I mean, they beat us there, placed 4-0. They knocked us out the League Cup last season. I can't remember the last time you came in. What was the results, Ross?
1-0, I think, wasn't it?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I remember getting pasted by you lot 6-1 when we first came up, but that's
about 1,000 years ago.
I know Alexis got the winner in the Carling Cup tie very late on last season, and the corresponding fixture, I will tell you now,
Only other one I remember is when you came down to St Mary's last Boxing Day, because I went to that game, or New Year's, when we beat you 2-0 and Mane hit that amazing cross goal that Mertesacker kind of flailed at.
Yes, oh Christ, yeah, I do remember that actually.
Did you see that question I put in the chat box? Is that relevant? It's about this game.
Yes, no, we'll come on to that in a minute. We'll come on to that in a minute.
Sure what point we do these.
Sorry, that Alexis goal, he scored the free kick and we lost in the cup 2-1, but we beat Southampton 1. It was the 1-0 game. Alexis 89th minute winner last season.
It was 3-1.
It's a midweek game.
Last season, wasn't it?
Yeah, a 2-1 defeat apparently. Tadic and Klein.
So Southampton did what we should be doing, grinding out results. And hats off. If I was wearing a hat, I'll take it off to them. Many decent players. And Wanyama. Anything nice to say about Wanyama, Kris? You still don't rate him?
No.
Fair enough.
And the fact that our guest who is a Saints fan, what's it you said last night, Ross? He only seems to turn up against us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Arsenal sign him, which I wouldn't be surprised if they do, because he's a good player.
Please God.
But if Arsenal ever sign him, your fans will take one look at him against Man City and go, wow, what a player. But the Wanyama that turns up the next week at Villa will be completely different. And I guarantee you, if you watch the game Saturday evening against West Ham, he won't look nearly as good as he did against Arsenal. Who's
your favourite player in the current team?
Cool. Oh, man, that's a tough question. I would probably have to say...
That means you've got a decent team.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's 3 immediately jump to mind. Foster, Ward-Prowse and Austin. But Austin's only had 1 game, so I can't really say that, can I?
Not Pele?
Nah, not Pele. I do love Pele, but no. I'm going to have to say Foster, just because of how important he is to the team as well. But that is a tough question.
You got any concerns about keeping hold of him?
Not yet. He's been out for a year, and goalkeepers don't tend to move around. Yeah, he was out for the best part of 8 to 9 months. So.
Bloody knee injury, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the same one that Rodriguez got at Man City, which kept him out for about 9 months. But generally goalkeepers seem to stick around at teams for a good 5 years. They don't move around as freely as attackers and defenders do. So I'd like to think we'll have a couple more years of him yet. But he's a fantastic goalkeeper.
Is he the new Peter Shilton?
Well, I never saw the old Peter Shilton, so
he was brilliant.
We
could talk about this all day, but we should move on.
Yeah, well, it was just a couple of games to go, and I do just want to touch briefly on Bournemouth, who are Arsenal's next opponents on Sunday. They got a 2-1 victory over Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. Now, This was, I think this is a really big result for Bournemouth because they play good football, and they came from behind. And as I said earlier on, Palace, this is, I think it's 5 straight defeats now, may even be more, but it's definitely 5 on the spin. Um, Ross? What do you make of Bournemouth? I mean, they're a side that Eddie Howe has basically said a few weeks ago that he wouldn't change his philosophy, would stick to what he knew best. I don't think they should stick to that pink kit, but other than that, the football, it's got them points. Benik Afobe scored 3 and 4, which is what they bought him to do, or which is what they bought him for. What do you make of them? Do you think they've got enough to be that small club that stays up playing football?
Yeah, excuse me. I think I said a couple of weeks ago that I don't really fear for them this season. I fear for them more next season because they'll try and add more Premier League quality, and I don't think that's what this team needs. I think it's a very nice, settled community kind of team. Everyone knows each other. Everyone knows what they do and how to play with each other. I mean, the back four, I think, is essentially the same as they played in the Championship last year, and that still looks very comfortable in the Premier League. So I like what they do. I love the manager. I think he's got a big future. I think he could very well end up at Southampton before too long. I like the whole setup at Bournemouth, and it's nice to have a local rival in the Premier League with us again. One thing I would say, since Arsenal have them on the weekend, is that Bournemouth will give you a hell of a game. I still think Arsenal will beat you. Beat Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And one thing I would also add is that last night I was reading the Arsenal fallout on Twitter. And I love Arsenal fans, love them to bits, but mammy, you overreact.
I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do. No, we
Did you get your popcorn and just sit back and enjoy it?
Oh, it's crazy the amount of stuff that comes out when you lose or draw. I mean, you didn't even lose. It's just a 0-0.
This is why, Ross, that it's great to have other fans of other clubs on this medium because we do have the most bizarre fan base at times, and it's so refreshing when you speak to fans of other clubs and they go, "Christ, your fans are a bit over the top, aren't they?" And
for what we have.
Yeah,
5-point gap and the title race is over. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
To come. We beat them. It's a 2-point gap.
And it has.
You only got to look at previous seasons and Liverpool throwing it away. Man City closing the gap on United. The relegation fights where Wigan claw back 10 points in 10 games. I mean, 5 points is nothing. And let me say, as a fan of a different team, Arsenal are harder to beat than Leicester. Much harder to beat. And Leicester will drop more points than Arsenal will before now, the end of the season. I'm sure of that.
Our full strength squad almost back.
There you go. And I agree with you, Ross, totally. I think that almost the ideal opposition for Arsenal is away from home because it gets us away from the toxic home supporters, and against Bournemouth, who are a footballing side who will come at us, which is exactly what we want teams to do. Now I've said that, we'll lose 4-1. You heard it here first. But no, I agree with you. And if you look at Leicester playing Man City at the Etihad this weekend, if City win that and Arsenal win, it's 2 points and everybody's happy again. So bizarre.
Palace thing about the losses.
Please, yep.
5 losses in a row. Then before that, 2 draws in a row. Then the last time they won was the 19th of December away at Stoke, who everybody wins away at Stoke apart from Arsenal. And from that, after the Stoke game, they went 5 games without scoring, and then they scored 2 in the next goals, one in the next 2 games. So 5 games in a row without scoring. So yeah.
And
looking good.
I don't know if you heard, they were booed off, which surprised me, if I'm honest.
Palace, a hell of a game. One hell of an atmosphere though they have there. They got one of their favourite players as a manager. They've put loads of money into the club. They're doing well. It's just a matter of time turning it around. Yeah,
they're a club I like, I must admit. I hope they turn it around. I know Pardew divides opinion, but Ross would know.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. I don't know what he writes in that book, but bloody hell.
No, I do think he's a bit of a smooth operator. I think a lot of what he comes out with is a little bit rubbish. But
and they couldn't score past Boruk to win the game enough. Couldn't score enough.
No, I was going to say, if it makes you feel any better, you've got an ex-Saint in goal against you on the weekend, so put as many past him as you like.
Let's hope he gives us a gift like he did last time we played them.
Oh yeah,
everybody gives us like Santa.
Sure. One more game to get through before we just take a couple of questions, and that was the table toppers. We've saved the best for last, if you will. Leicester City, who played Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool's sort of side coming away from home and coming undone again. Danny, the Jamie Vardy goal has certainly stood out. It was a fantastic goal, it's got to be said. I'm going to sort of take the limelight away from Leicester from you, though. I want you to tell me about Liverpool. We've just touched on Arsenal fans sort of throwing the proverbial toys at the pram after a loss. Liverpool currently sit 8th. There's 3 defeats in 5, 34 points. I mean, that's a good 11 points off the top 4. Granted, Jurgen Klopp is in the early days, and I'm sure there's a lot of players he wants to get shot of. But Do you think that there's a bit of a concern that the Klopp sort of romance with the Liverpool fans? He was very prickly after the game. He was very touchy with the interviewers. Do you think that maybe Liverpool aren't quite as well set up as they thought they might be?
They're having to rely. Did they play Colo Touré at the back last night? No, Lovren's back.
Yeah,
The man
Saka
that
as
makes
well.
every Southampton fan smile. How did they get 30 million for him?
Yeah. Dejan Lolo Lovren.
Yes.
And Fatty Milner running around all over the place. My friends just sold some stuff to Fatty Milner, and the people at the company didn't tell her. She went, "What Milner? The Liverpool player? Oh, why didn't you tell me?" She wasn't happy, poor old Anna. You look at the Liverpool team. They lost 2-0 at Leicester. Then they had a ding-dong game 5-4 at Norwich, and then they lose 1-0 at home to Man United. Then have a ding-dong match against Arsenal 3-3. That is a sign of a team that's on the wonk. They don't know whether they're Arthur or Martha, whether they're coming or going, and they don't know what to do to a bishop or an actress. It's just craziness going on there. But there's so many. I don't rate Sarko at all. I mean, Lovren coming back. I think that was Lovren's first start in a while because I know Touré's been playing there, and Firmino, he's not done very well, has he? He's scored a few goals and he goes missing. I just love the way that Leicester all play as a whole big happy team. From Schmeichel, Huthel is pulling his weight at the back, and Drinkwater, Kante, Mahrez, who got an assist for the first goal, then Vardy. People are going, "Oh, that's it. The Leicester's challenge is over. It's all gone. Vardy, it's all dried up." No, had a few games, carried on with it. Okazaki got a few, went for them, I think. Even Ulloa got a goal, which is nice to see. Yeah, it's good. They showed them what they can do, and they showed Liverpool the way that you can carry on playing football. And I think they played. Did they play a 4-4-2? I think Leicester might have done.
I think they usually do, don't they? Generally, yeah.
Yeah, which is I love a 4-4-2. It's so easy. And if you play it right with the right players, they remind me of an old-fashioned football team from the 80s or 90s. Just get stuck in and do it. They don't necessarily do it with all the flair in the world, but with a team packed full of really expensive foreigners. But half of those players could almost walk into, a third of them could walk into most Premier League teams and do a great job. I love seeing Leicester do this.
It'll be really interesting to see what both clubs do in the summer, depending on where they finish. But
Sell Mingale.
yeah, indeed. New contract, Mignolet.
Pension off Touré.
Good luck with that. Ross, what do you make of Leicester? I mean, I in particular have said many times I still expect them to fall away. I mean, you just said there that they're potentially easier to beat than maybe Arsenal or Man City. I mean, they just keep winning. The only thing I would say, and I'd be interested to get your views on this, they've won last night, and that's great. But surely you would expect them to beat a Liverpool side that are out of sorts, particularly away from home, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was the thing about that game, is that I looked at it and I couldn't say anything but a Leicester win, just because Leicester just seem to be playing more as a team than Liverpool do at the moment. And we all know that Liverpool is so patchwork in every department. It wouldn't have been tough for Vardy to break that. I do like Leicester as a neutral. I'd love to see Leicester win the league. Of course I would. It'd be nice to just see a bit of a change. I still think Arsenal will. I still think they're going to have more in the tank when push comes to shove. But it's like I said a minute ago, Leicester are much easier to beat than Arsenal. I mean, when Southampton played them, we were 2-0 up at half-time. If we'd had Forster in goal, at least one of the goals that Vardy scored that day wouldn't have gone in and we would have won 2-1, I'm sure of that. They're a brilliant side, but they play so open. I don't see them not dropping points, frankly. I think the thing that's really worked for them in their favour is that Mahrez and Vardy just seem to trade goals between them at the start of the season. Because realistically speaking, Southampton could have been there, West Ham could have been there, Stoke, Watford, Palace, Everton, any of these teams could have been up where Leicester are. It's just that Leicester managed to stay consistent, I think.
Yeah, consistency is a massive key, very, very much so. And hats off to Leicester, hats off to Ranieri, and fair play. I know there was a punter who put a £5 bet on for his team to win the Premier League pre-season at 5,000 to 1, and I think he was on Twitter last night asking for people whether he should cash out. And I think, from memory, he could cash out for something in the region of about 32 grand right now.
Yeah, do it.
So, I think I would if I'm honest.
100 grand on a £1 bet as well.
Yeah, for Leicester to be top at Christmas, yeah. Just amazing, isn't it? But hey-ho, that's the luck of the draw, Okay, before we take listeners' questions, I'm going to rattle through the weekend's fixtures, and I'm going to ask you all to predict, or just give me the name of the team you think wins the game, or if you think it'll be a draw, just so we can get your views. So, Danny, start with you then. 12:45 Saturday is Manchester City versus Leicester. How do you see it?
I'll tell you, it's almost worth getting out of bed for. I don't think I will. I'm going to go for Yeah, Leicester are resurgent at the moment. I reckon they're going to go there. Maybe a few goals and maybe beat them 3-2 or 2-1. But yeah, I'm going to go for a Leicester win.
Interesting. Had it here first. Ross, Swansea, Crystal Palace, 3:00 Saturday.
God, give me the easy ones, don't you? Draw. I'm going to go with draw. I think.
Draw. Interesting. Danny, Stoke, Everton, 3:00 Saturday.
Oh dear, shit team via team that should let in loads. I wouldn't be surprised if they're scared shitless of Mark Hughes, and Mark Hughes is threatening to kill every single one of his players if they don't do it. So I'm going to put Stoke down for a 2-0. Okay. Everton are on a good run of form at the moment, but it's the wrath of Hughes. Don't mess with him. And they've got some decent players there.
True.
And they've got the new bloke, which I paid, 18 million quid for.
Yeah, Mbula, yeah. It'd be interesting to see if he
is a striker. Is he an attacking midfielder or a striker?
No, he's a defensive midfielder.
Do you want a nice stat about Mbula?
Go for it.
He cost more than the stadium.
Wow. That says quite a lot. That says quite a lot to me. And Stoke will be hoping that they get the Mbula who broke through at Marseille, not the one that left Marseille.
The other player that went for 16 million in the transfer window is a striker, isn't he?
Niassi at Everton.
Oh, I knew there was someone who bought a striker. Is he the one who he went to, was it Portugal?
No, that was Mbula. He went to Porto. Niassi was at Lokomotiv Moscow.
Bless you.
Thank you. Moving on. Ross, Aston Villa Norwich is also 3:00 Saturday.
Oh,
that's a battle of two bold men in a comb, isn't it?
Yeah. God, I'm going to go Norwich because I think they're a bit more freewheeling and they'll go for that game. I don't think Aston Villa have got the attacking nous that Norwich do, so I'm going to go Norwich.
Interesting. Danny, Liverpool Sunderland is also 3:00.
I'm predicting a slobber knocker is going to be 4-2 to Liverpool.
Oof, goals. And 3:00 is Tottenham Watford, London derby there for us.
Tottenham. Quite comfortably, I fear.
Straight to the point, like it. And Danny, the last 3:00 game on Saturday is Newcastle West Brom.
Yeah, Newcastle. They've got all the new players. John Joe Shelby alone should be getting goals from midfield. Townsend has made his debut tonight. They got what it takes. I reckon if you've got Doumbia in there, they'll run West Brom ragged, and probably gonna maybe 2-0 Newcastle.
Interesting, like it. Ross, I'm going to let you predict your own team. Southampton West Ham is the late game on Saturday night.
9-0.
Yep. To be fair, I do think it will be Southampton because we've been on such a good run, and we do need to get West Ham back. But it would not surprise me at all if that's a 1-1.
Interesting. Sit on the fence. I like it. Just to be safe. Danny, AFC Bournemouth versus Arsenal is the 1:30 on Sunday.
We are notoriously bad at early kickoffs. We're going to have the ghost of Benicophobe, and I'm going to say 2-2. Benicophobe scoring both.
Cool. Interesting. And the final game of the weekend, Ross, is for you. Chelsea versus Manchester United.
Ebola, an outbreak of Ebola.
Oh, Danny. Bango's on PG rating.
Probably going to go Chelsea because they just seem to turn up against the big sides.
That would be funny.
Don't we know? Yeah.
I'm just going to have to say Chelsea, but if they do win, I think it would just be by a goal.
Yeah, let's just hope it isn't as bad as the first game earlier in the season.
Snorefest written all over
the first one was truly dreadful.
It's on TV as well, isn't it?
Yes, 4:00. Yeah, there you go. So there you go. So that's the fixtures at the weekend. So just to keep listeners up to speed with the table, we've got Leicester top on 50 points, Manchester City second on 47, Tottenham and Arsenal level on 45 points in third and fourth respectively, Manchester United fifth, and West Ham make up the top six, Saints just outside it in seventh. And we've got Villa bottom and doomed seemingly 13 points, Sunderland on 19 points on 19th, West Ham on 21 in 18th, Norwich, Swansea, Bournemouth and West Brom make up those places just above them, and Chelsea sitting in 13th after tonight's draw. So that's where we stand. Just to bring you up to speed on the Golden Boot, Jamie Vardy is still top of that particular league. He has 18 goals this season. Harry Kane is next on 15, along with Romelu Lukaku. 14 for Odion Ighalo, 13 for Sergio Aguero and Riyad Mahrez, and Arsenal's Olivier Giroud has 12. So that's some stats for you.
Who's got the most assists?
I don't know.
16.
Actually, I could tell you. Yeah, Ozil 16, Kevin De Bruyne on 9, Riyad Mahrez on 9, Christian Eriksen 8, Delafeu 8, David Silva 8, Ross Barkley 7, Wes Hoolahan on 7 as well. And Sadio Mane has 6, by the way. Interesting. Okay, so that's the Premier League wrapped up then for the midweek. We will, of course, be covering all of those games we've just predicted for the weekend. So feel free to write down our predictions, and when we're all completely wrong, tweet us abuse and say we know nothing about football. We always like that.
Wrong, I don't care.
No, absolutely. I will be writing down these predictions you just given me, gentlemen. So I'll have them back in your face. I could have been harsh and asked you to predict scores. I've just asked you to pick a win or draw or defeat. So you did actually, yeah.
That's why I'm second bottom of our prediction league.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but yeah. So we will cover those, of course, late Sunday night or for Monday morning when listeners grab it. But let's take a couple of questions before we leave you for this midweek. We have had a couple of questions here, and I will start, Danny, with Pete Gooner. He wants to know, how do you think the teams in the Premier League of today would compare facing the teams of the Premier League 15 years ago? Now, this is a bit of a difficult question to answer as far as all the teams. So I'm just going to say like the title challenges. So how would, for example, a modern Arsenal, Man United, Chelsea, Liverpool, how would they compare to the teams of 10 years ago or 15 years ago?
Good question. Well, if you look at the league table at the end of 15 years ago, Man United won it on 80. With a goal difference of plus 48, Arsenal second, Liverpool third, Leeds fourth, currently in the Championship, Ipswich fifth, Chelsea sixth, Sunderland seventh, and then all the way down the bottom, getting relegated, Bradford, currently in trouble again, Coventry, both those teams are in the third division, and Man City got relegated. Oh, what a great season that was. Well, no, it wasn't. Man United won the title. There'd be a lot more black eyes, a lot more broken feet, and a lot more punching and kicking and red cards and points deducted, because those seasons were great. I know I'm looking at these with what kind of tinted glasses would that? Mahogany, because they're old. Mahogany tinted glasses. I loved football back then. It was more football. You had the long sleeve kits and the jumpers for golf. No, that's not right, is it?
Short shorts, yeah.
Football back then there was a loads more margin between the big teams and the little teams. You would never get the teams like you do now. That season, Bradford won 5 games and Coventry won 8 and Man City won 8. I doubt very much if any of them went away to the big teams and beat them. It was mainly just between 2 teams back then, Man United and Arsenal. I think it was like 8 or 9 seasons in a row where it was either those two coming first or second, with occasionally Liverpool mixing it up a bit, and then a few years after that, Chelsea started getting into it. But football then was more dominant by big teams, and those big teams not only got away with it on the pitch, but they got away with it off the pitch.
Yeah.
And it says Southampton here finished 10th, because I know Ross was wondering, just above Newcastle and below Charlton.
Where we deserve to be, of course.
Massive trouble.
I think it's fair to say, Danny, that Specsavers are not going to bat your door down for mahogany tinted spectacles just yet. I think it's
David Dickinson would. He'd be all over him like
a
rat on chips.
Yeah, that is true, actually. Maybe there's a marketing ploy there.
Yeah, I think the gist of that is, and me waffling on, is the margin of classes between who was the top teams and who wasn't. It was now it's everybody can beat everybody unless you're Villa.
Yeah.
Very good. Just a couple.
Very good question. I like that. Very good question. Okay, next question then I'm going to give to you, Ross, and this one is from Nova Rock, a good pal of mine.
Come on, Portland Timbers.
It's hard to tell from this side of the Atlantic, he says. He is in the US, but he said, what's been going on with Brighton? They're undefeated, then bad, back up to the top, or back up near the top now, or on the up. What do you make of Brighton and Chris Hughton, the job he's doing down there?
He's done a very good job since he came in. He's completely turned that club around. Where are they now? 5th, only 4 defeats in the league this season. That's fantastic compared to where they were when he took over. The thing that realistically happened with them is that the defence at Brighton has never been that good all season. They were normally conceding 1 or 2 goals per game, but they just had the goal-scoring power just to bring it level more often than not. But midway through December, I believe it was, they went on a 8-game winless run, and in 6 of those games they didn't score a goal. So for some reason the goals just dried up. I couldn't tell you why. I don't watch Brighton week in, week out. I don't suppose Bobby Zamora is going to be a free scoring striker anymore, but they just couldn't seem to score, and thankfully now they've managed to pick up a couple of goals and a couple of points. They just beat Blackburn 1-0, which isn't the toughest game in the world in the Championship at the moment, and 2-1 over Huddersfield. So perhaps they've turned a corner, but the defence is still poor. They seem to be letting at least 1 goal in most weeks. So if the strikers are on form, then they're right back in it. But if the strikers go off colour again, then they could very quickly start sliding.
Yeah,
best away record in the league, only lost 1.
It's not bad, is it? I'll put your head on the chopping block, Ross. Do they make the playoffs or not?
Oh, for me, I think they just about do, but there's a lot of good teams that could pull them back. Yep.
Get Craig McHale-Smith back.
Oh, the legend it is.
Legend.
Yeah, absolutely. Another good question, this, from a chap who hasn't asked this one before. So, welcome to the parish, good sir. This is Fred Turbin, who's at RLF86. Does the loan system need to change to help youngsters? Arsene Wenger says teams that don't want to play your players. Says teams want to play your player unless they're exceptional talents, as that player won't be there next season, so they play their own players. So instead of playing continued to a loan player, should teams just be paid for every 10 games the player plays to encourage teams to develop their loan stars or developing young lads? It's quite a long question, but
was that an email?
I think the gist of what Fred is saying there, I think I get the general gist of it. I believe he's a Gooner. So what we're essentially saying then, Fred's question is, does the loan system need to change? I mean, some of these players are going out on loan. We've seen Serge Gnabry from Arsenal, for example, has gone on loan and not played. Does something need to change? Yeah, I mean, what do you make of the loan system, Danny?
Well, if you look at Carl Jenkinson, he went off to second season at West Ham. His first season, he was the first choice, I think, virtually the whole time. Towards the end, just for his injury, he was being knocked out by centre-back Tompkins, who was playing right back. Now he's got an injury, they've sent him back. Serge Gnabry, 3 games he played for I think maybe 2 or 3 games he come on as a sub. He played 3 games as the under-21s, and that's in half a season. Pointless. Emilio Martinez at Wolves, he was number 1, then 2, then 1, then 2, swapping and bang with Ikemi, backward and forward the whole time. And now he's been injured. He's on the bench again. Ashley Maitland-Niles, he's played most of the games. Chupa Apcom and Isaac Hayden, they've both probably had about half of the half season already. Isaac's just come back in. Chufa's been dropped for the last few games. John Terrell, now that is a loan that is a brilliant loan. He's played almost every single game. He's banging in the goals, getting the assists. Wellington Silva is at Bolton, and if Pele was at Bolton now, he wouldn't be scoring. We just let Glenn Kamara go on loan to Southend. It's too soon to tell. Chesney's played every game for Roma, which they probably regret each and every single one of them. So Yaya Sanogo goals went to Ajax, played virtually never. Now he's gone to Charlton, helped them get relegated. Good loan, Gideon Zelalem. Go on, say it.
No.
The child's joining in.
Very good.
Classic Bants. Good here. He's at Rangers at the moment, and he did so well they extended his loan, and he's playing most games now. He had a little bit of an injury. Dan Crowley, that's one where Arsenal went, no, it's not working. I think Barnsley said he's too good for us, and we're not playing him. Now, as an Arsenal fan, I have no idea what was going on with that one. So they sent him back. But he wasn't really playing much. And then Irish legend Stephen O'Connor went to York, played 1 game, then had to swim home.
God bless him.
So how's the Southampton situation? Do you have many out on loan, Ross?
Cool. We've got Ryan Seeger out at Crewe at the moment. He's just gone. Jason McCarthy's at Wickham. We've got Jordan Turnbull at Swindon. Jack Stevens went to Coventry on deadline day. And Gaston Ramirez is at Middlesbrough. So there's a nice enough collection. Yeah, I think one of the important things is just getting out there and doing training sessions with the first team and being in and around match days. I think that's just as important as actually playing games for some of the younger kids. But as for offering financial incentives / bribes to get other teams to play your youngsters, I'm not sure that's the way forward personally. But yes, I think that there does need to be some kind of encouragement for teams to start looking at younger talent. But ultimately, it depends on the player. If he's not ready for first team football, then he's not ready.
I know we've pushed for time, Chris, but can I ask Ross one quick question?
Just come.
In your journey up and down through the leagues of late, from when you went to the Premier League to the third tier of English football and back up again, did you rely on the loan system much, or was there any that stood out?
We had a couple. I know Michael Antonio. We loaned him in League One, and he scored in the Johnson's Paint Trophy. Fortune, I don't remember him.
As in that was West Brom, Danny, the forward. You mean? Yeah. Okay.
There were a couple of notable ones. I mean, Gulli de Prado came in as a loan before we signed him permanently. Papa Wago came in League One.
Wasn't he a WWF wrestler?
You might as well have been.
Papa Shango.
Hey!
Very good. Carry on.
For the dads.
I remember Papa Shango, strange man.
Oh,
yeah, there were a few good loans, but there were also some really awful ones. I remember Jacob Mellis coming on from Chelsea, and he was not good at all. So yeah, we did make use of them, but generally speaking, we had the financial clout just to say, "Oh, Ricky Lambert's up for sale, let's have him."
I think the whole thing needs to be scrapped. The whole as the Premier League under 18s and under 21s league, scrap them. Go back to the way it was before with the Overton combination style stuff, where any amount of reserves and youth could play together. Because then you've got a proper mix. I think now it's only three non under 21s can play. It's pointless. The whole thing's rubbish. Apart from the fact that we've been relegated.
Gives teams an opportunity to get players back to fitness as well, doesn't it? If it's a proper system.
But that's a whole pod on its own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good question. Good question. Right, I think we've got time for one last question, and I'm going to give this one to Ross because he's not going to be biased. Comes from our old friend Pigman J Hamkenstein at Pigmandia. He asked us all, how do you solve a problem like Theo Walcott? 2 out of 3 passes in more than half an hour on the pitch last night. I'm going to give it to you, Ross, because obviously you don't have the tainted views that us Arsenal fans would have had for 10 years. So comparing him as a youngster breaking through at Southampton to comparing him to what we've had for the last 10 years, what would you do? How would you solve the problem of Theo Walcott?
Yeah, the issue here is I am biased. I've always loved Theo Walcott. I've always been a big fan of his. For me, he has always been a striker. The issue for me, however, is that when I watched him, he was a striker. We played him through the middle and he was fantastic. He moved to you. And ever since then, whenever someone said to me, what's Theo Walcott? Or how do you make him work? For me, it's always playing through the middle. Put him straight through the middle and he's fine. But I haven't had him in my team for 10 years. You know, it's a strange thing. I've got to start letting these kids go at some point. For me, he's a striker, but Arsenal fans will tell you that he's not. You know, that he's a winger. I think realistically speaking, Walcott is a confidence player, and he needs to know that things are going well, that he's being trusted, and when things are going badly, especially at Arsenal, he gets told that things are going badly, and very quickly he fades. For me, he's still your lead striker with Sanchez, Ozil, and Chamberlain around him. But, you know, again, this is my bias coming through again because I would put Chamberlain in, and apparently Chamberlain's not been doing very well for you. So I would give him another run through the middle. But at the same time, considering where you are in the table, I think there'll probably be some Arsenal fans saying keep him well away from it. We need to actually score one.
Where do you think he would have been if he'd have stayed with you? Maybe him and the Ox, if they'd have just stayed with you rather than leaving?
If they'd been with us, from when they broke in till now?
Yeah.
I think Walcott would be on a lot more goals than he is at Arsenal. Chamberlain would probably still be about the same place as he is now. He'd probably get a few more assists coming up through some of the lower divisions with us. But I still strongly believe that Walcott would have been through the middle. You know, whoever came in to manage us, I think they would have put him through the middle, even if it was behind Pella or up front on his own. I think they would have played him through the middle because he's just got that pace. And anytime you see him run, he comes inside. He doesn't want to stay outside. He always wants to come in. So, for me, he's always been a striker. And if he'd stayed with us, I think we would have moulded him as one.
I'm sure if Mr. Piglet was here, he'd say, what's the Ox's best position then, if you know?
For us, it was always
through the middle, isn't it?
Yeah, for us, it was always right wing whenever we played him. But from what I saw of him anyway, and I only got to see him for about 6 months before he went off to you lot, I would have always said he was a winger. But I also know that he can play centre midfield, and it would not surprise me whatsoever if that's where he ends up later on in his career, because he's certainly got the passing ability for it. He just hasn't got the strength for it at the moment. So the other issue, of course, is that he can't play 10 because Ozil's there and no one's getting rid of Ozil. So yeah, for me, he's a winger. He's always has been. But you know, Arsenal has a habit of taking players and seeing talents in them and trying to mould them for other positions. So
yeah, just quickly, just a quick answer on this one. Do you think that maybe Arsenal is too high a step for Theo Walcott? Do you think that's fair, or do you? I mean, I'm looking at it as 10 years now. You know, where we still see a very similar Theo that we had when we signed him as a raw player. I mean, do you think maybe this level is just a bit too high for him expectation wise?
Yeah, I think unfortunately, as much as I love Theo, after 10 years, and he's done very well for Arsenal considering the amount of goals he's scored, or at least I'd say he's done very well. He's not done as well as we had all hoped. I mean, you took him to the World Cup at 17 or whatever age he was when we took him, and there was such high expectations for him. He's never impressed Arsenal fans, from what I understand at least. He's never matched the heights that they set for him. So I think just based on the evidence, he's probably peaked at Arsenal, and he probably has to start looking at an Everton or a West Ham or maybe even a Southampton again.
Yeah, just flatters to deceive at the vital times. We shall see. Okay, super. Well, that will round us off then for this midweek breakfast show. I think we've covered all the games, and there's some very good questions there. So thank you all to those who sent us a question. If you don't already, please do give us a follow. We're at the FH Podcast. We've got a couple of announcements coming up, but I will save them for the pod.
But we've announcements, aren't you?
I know. I like to tease the listeners. It means
Christmas Day every day with you.
It means they at least have to tune into the last part of next pod that way. So But yeah, we've secured another really good interview coming up. So that will be announced soon. And we did. I should also say we had one more question that we didn't get to tonight, but we will get to, which was from Nothing to Say, who's set us a challenge, more homework. He set us the challenge to build the best ever Premier League side, excluding the big sides, i.e. Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Man United, Liverpool. We're going to change your question there, Mr. Nothing to Say. We're going to pick you our team of this season minus the top sides. So we'll include Chelsea in that. So we'll take out those.
Can I do all Premier League seasons apart from the top 4?
Danny, I will let you do however you wish to do it.
I think I might keep Nothing to Say quite happy.
Okay, well you do that. And
Titio's in.
You do the best of all time in the Premier League era, and me and Ross will do both of our teams of the season so far without those top 5 sides. Deal?
I love a bit of history.
Good. I want those for Sunday. So there you go. There's your challenge.
Remind me.
Right, just a quick plug for another podcast that we will be recording very shortly, which you'll be able to listen to, hopefully when this one comes out as well, which is all of the crew, including Ross and Danny, talking transfers. So that'll be fun for you guys. So thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll be back again shortly, if you will, on a different podcast from the same name. So keep your beard strong and your glasses trendy. We'll speak to you very, very soon.